What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your source for everything in the world of video games. Now, you can always be a part of our show. All you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. PSA, we've got a charity stream coming up for Big Brothers and Big Sisters on September 17th to the 18th. You can help support and donate and, of course, raise awareness for such a great cause. Join us for the 24-hour live stream. The guys and I will be gaming with special guests and friends from the community. 24 games in 24 hours. So stop by, help us kind of stay awake a little bit, because it's going to be a long 24 hours, but for a great cause. So make sure you stop by insidethegame.ca, twitch.tv/theofficialitg, and of course some TV streaming networks around the globe. But what's coming up on today's show? Here it is. It's the rundown. Dude, this is one of the worst controls I have ever experienced when it comes to playing a game. Trying to shoot anything was awful.
The gameplay, how you experience this character's journey to the seed, it's quite not so serious.
Super Duper is under luck and is a must-have for everything to do with crafting.
Everybody is at different stages. Corey, you are done the game, correct?
Yes, I am.
I'm approaching 4 hours in on what is essentially a 12-minute game. Scott and I cover the news each and every day over on ITG Daily, the show that brings all the hottest topics from the industry. Sometimes one of those topics just make you scratch your head and ask why. I'm talking about what Sony's up to next. Horizon Forbidden West.
Game he's worked on Skyrim. I mean, this guy is a legend. He has been here since the beginning of my first experiences with.
Looks like a great episode, so why don't we get things started as Nate and I are checking out a comic book inspired game, Foreclosed. Nate, we're jumping into a cyberpunk world, and not one we talked about too much.
Well done. Look at the tank on the right. I'm opening an air vent next to it.
Nate, we jumped into Foreclosed. Dude, this is such a unique cyberpunk experience. Parts of me loved it, and parts of me absolutely hated this game. I'm not gonna hide anything here. The overall story, I think, is so cool. You have this chip implanted in you, and it's all about everybody gets this chip, but yet your chip is certainly special and unique into what the cyber tech behind it all kind of is. And there's a lot of manipulation and things like that. I don't want to spoil the story, because that's one of the highlights of this game is the story. The story, I'll be right honest, is awesome. The ending fell a little flat for me, but the main story of all kind of unfolded, I thought was really, really well done. And it is done in this cyberpunk neon comic book style that was just incredible, and how that kind of portrays to unfolding the story as well, with your tiles, bouncing between one tile to the next tile, and how that unfolds. It kind of reminded me of Comic Zone from back in the day. There's a shout out for you. Man, dude, it was so cool, but we definitely had one massive problem, and that comes down to the gunplay. Dude, this is one of the worst controls I have ever experienced when it comes to playing a game. Trying to shoot anything was awful. That's my perspective. How did you feel, Nate?
Well, man, honestly, I share very much of the same opinion as you, where you have your scene portrayed in one tile, and then all of a sudden it expands to 3 to 4 different tiles throughout this entire scene. And it's just very cool. Like you kind of mentioned earlier, the colors and just the graphic style of it itself is also a highlight, in my opinion, of this. But man, we have got to talk about the gunplay. They give you only 2 options in the options for your controllers, and there are 2 sensitivity options. One is for aiming, and well, let me think. That's the only one. You can't do it when you're just looking around. There's no vertical and horizontal access sliders. It's just one sensitivity, and you can have it as low as you want. But my goodness, it's like I barely touch my thing and it just lunges across the screen. And this takes away from the experience so much.
Dude, it just completely ruined the game for me. That's the biggest part, right? I loved the story. I loved the art style. The art style and that comic book presentation behind it, I thought was incredible. But the minute it goes to gunplay and gameplay mechanics, I wanted to quit the game. Now, I wrapped up the game in only a matter of, I'd say, 4 hours, maybe 5, probably closer to 4, I'm being honest. And it's just, man, I had to fight through the gunplay. As you talked about, right, you're looking for sliders because the minute you touch your analog stick, dude, you're on the other side of the screen looking backwards. I'm like, holy crap. So I dialed it right down. I cranked up the auto aim assist, and even that didn't help, dude. Well, Nate, I'm ready to foreclose this game. I'm done. Although the story was so gripping and the art style was incredible, that gameplay really knocked the crap out of my score, unfortunately. If they could fix that gunplay mechanic, dude, that would enhance the score so much. But for me, I can't even recommend anybody playing this game just because it's so irritating, the amount of sway you get with the gun and unloading your bullets, and then the abilities are just a mindless upgrade. For me, dude, I'm there with the 4.5.
Well, man, I agree with you on all those points. I'm gonna be a little more forgiving. I can only recommend this to the very diehard, Cyberpunk fans that can, pain through the gameplay, just because this story is so cool and I really like the graphics. So for me, buddy, I'm gonna have to give this one a 5.
Nice.
A beautiful cyberpunk setting with a gripping story isn't enough to hold up against the lackluster gameplay.
When people talk about the history of gaming, they immediately jump to the very first home video game consoles like the Atari or the Magnavox Odyssey, but they came out in 1972. But what a lot of people don't realise that these were also inspired by a game that came out in 1962 called Space War by Steve Russell. Now, Space War was written for the newly installed DEC PDP-1 minicomputer at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. After its initial creation, Space War was expanded further by other students and employees of the universities. It was also spread to many of the few dozen installations of the PDP-1 computer, making Space War the very first known video game to be played at multiple computer installations. Each ship has limited weaponry and fuel for maneuvering, and the ships remain in motion even when the player is not accelerating. Flying near the star to provide a gravity assist was a common tactic, and ships were destroyed when they collide with a torpedo, the star, or each other. At any time, the player can engage a hyperspace feature to move to a new and random location on the screen, though in some versions, each use has an increasing chance of destroying the ship instead. Another cool feature as well was initially it was controlled with switches on the PDP-1, though Bob Sanders built an early gamepad to reduce the difficulty and the awkwardness of controlling the game. Now, Space War inspired so many other electronic games, and also the very first commercial arcade video games such as Computer Space in 1971 and Asteroids in 1979. Then in 2007, Space War was actually listed in a list of 10 most important video games of all time that form the start of the games canon at the Library of Congress. let's grab some Lumiums, because we've got a planet to save. We jumped into the Seed of Life on Steam, and it's supposed to be an action-adventure game, but I would say it's more of an adventure, 3D platform style of game, and it's based on a girl called Cora, who lives on a planet called Lumia, and it sounds like she's the only person on this planet. It's dying as well because the sun is dying, and it's been overtaken by aliens called Normarians, and it corrupts everything and it brings darkness to this planet. So after all that, what did you think of the intro?
Oh,
the start of the game.
It is quite dark. It does do a very good job of setting up the premise, explaining to you the backstory that's relevant, and getting to the real bleak nature of the situation. The gameplay, how you experience as characters, the journey to the seed, it's quite not so serious. It is a platformer. I think that's the most accurately way of explaining this action, because it's not so much about fighting enemies. There's a little bit of avoidance, but it's more about getting through the area around this kind of natural problem. It may be a river that's too cold, you can't go through it, and you need to find a bridge. It might be a hole in a mountain you're looking for, just some sort of thing to literally overcome. And that leads into kind of the first problem that I have. It leads you from one problem area, one section, to another, but I felt really disoriented. Like I wasn't sure of which direction I was going, where I was supposed to go. It does kind of give you a little bit of voice line to tell you, we're looking for a doorway, we're looking for this pedestal. But it just, that was so easily lost on me when I'm moving from area. And in each individual spot, I got lost a lot of times. We mentioned this. This is one of the real difficulties of this game is, where have I been here before?
Yes, I totally agree with you. I spent ages just going round in circles trying to find how to, like you said, how to cross the river because it's corrupted. And if you go in it, you die.
Yeah.
So you walk around and then you just find a little crack or a gap between two rocks. They think, oh, what's up here? And then it takes you to the next point. You have to go to certain plants as well and gather these Lumiums, which you're like a vessel that you have to collect as much as you can to get to the end part of the game for the Seed of Life. And each time you get past certain areas, you come across pedestals where you get little puzzles. Mm-hmm. The puzzles I didn't find hard at all. It's just like 3 rings, you just line them up, and it sort of activates the pedestal, which is then becomes your save point.
Real difficulty in this game is trying to find a way over the obstacle, and a lot of the times that was difficult. So it had me kind of wanting more in some directions, but also being satisfied with the main meat of the game.
Yes, and as you travel on, you do come across one of the aliens, Nemorian, who actually wants to help you, and then gives you a disc where you can actually start collecting abilities to help you collect all these Lumians. And I have to say, there's one of them that will actually tell you where there's points of interest, and we talked about this a little bit beforehand, and this actually did make me feel nausea.
Oh yeah.
And it's just because it goes all hazy, and I had issues with the camera angle of the game itself. And I will just quickly touch as well, I actually played this with controller. I know you're a mouse and keyboard person, so I don't know if that was contributing or if it's the sensitivity, but I hated the camera angle, and I also hated the jumping as well, because you do a lot of jumping, and I found when you sort of jump, it kind of stopped in midair and then just fall.
Oh.
And I died so many times because of this. I don't know if you experienced the same issues as I did.
That's frustrating. I didn't have the exact same issue, but being on mouse and keyboard, I felt kind of chunky. Like every movement was jarring, and it was hard to get that fine articulation that you would want for a platforming jumper. So a lot of the time I would be just slightly off, and that would just I wouldn't have enough length in the jump to make it. that was super frustrating. It didn't usually result in a death, but it did just set me back the whole action. Graphically, I think it does the job. It doesn't look bad, and it kind of has a style about it that is certainly a positive that way, but it didn't seem new.
No.
It lacked a lot of kind of, I guess, textures and stuff. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it kind of reminded me of like a 360 game. But we're a whole decade on from that now, so I thought that was a little bit disappointing. But, you know, I don't want to get the wrong opinion across. It did the job.
Yes. Oh, and the other thing I'll just quickly touch on as well, this bit I did not really understand, is you can actually go up to lanterns and tap them to make them go brighter.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the point of that, because it was almost like a cutscene. You get a close up and she taps the lantern and it goes a little bit brighter, and then after a while it goes dim again.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was supposed to be not a checkpoint, but like a guide to sort of say you've been in this area, because you do keep coming back to the same areas again.
Actually, that's a very good idea. I think that may be the purpose functionally, because that would have helped me a lot.
Yeah.
This is more of a preview, not quite a review. Both of us have played a lot into this game, but we're not quite through it, so it seems unfair to really give it a nominal score. But I'm going to actually recommend this one. I think it's quite an interesting premise, and I think the storytelling will come across really well in most cases. It has some action to it, but that's not the focus point. But if you're going to recommend or not, what do you think about this, Steve?
Ooh, I have to say, I'm kind of on the fence post, because it's still like $30. I feel like it's incomplete. There's still issues and bugs that could be sorted out. It would be nice, a bit more interaction with other things as well, instead of just keep walking around and dying.
Yeah.
So until they sort of do an update or do something, I mean, like I say, they're making me feel nauseous as well on certain of the abilities. I'm going to say not recommend for me, unless they do something drastically to make me want to jump in and play it again.
Well, I think that's fair, and that's certainly a valid point. But we're going to possibly return to this one if it does experience these updates, feels more like a finished product. Does ITG recommend? Well, we're split on this one. It's worth a look if you are a fan of dark storytelling, but it is not very action-oriented.
The sun is weakening, and every day it's getting darker.
Alright, so this week in Level Up, I'm going to teach you guys how to unlock mods for your favorite weapons and armor in Fallout 76. Now, the most important thing to note is that you can break down any piece of gear, be it with or without mods. You can craft the lowest level for that piece of gear, so craft a level 5 versus crafting a level 50 to use less resources. Make sure to have the appropriate perks equipped while crafting. Super Duper is under luck and is a must-have for everything to do with crafting. This method of scrapping only applies to weapons and armor, not power armor or special weapons like the glaive or plasma cutter, which you can only buy from the appropriate vendors. Also, it's very important to note that when modding any piece of gear, it shows you how many mods you have unlocked. You can buy a lot of these mods you gain from scrapping at the appropriate vendors, which can all be found together at White's Ring, but I find once you've accumulated enough materials, it's worth crafting and breaking down weapons for the mods you desire.
Well, guys, we are doing something a little unique today. We're actually going to the round table to talk about 12 Minutes, a very unique title. Everybody is at different stages. Corey, you are done the game, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
I'm approaching 4 hours in on what is essentially a 12-minute game. Scott, where are you at with this game?
I think I'm quite a bit progressed.
Yeah.
But it has taken me probably about 3 hours to get to where I'm at.
And Nate,
It's such that I know I could have done it faster, but just stumbling through,
yeah.
I'm making some progress.
Nate, whereabouts are you? You're just in the beginning
Well,
stages.
I'm just a baby right now. I'm on my I've done 2.5 playthroughs, so I'm about 30 to 40 minutes in.
Okay.
And I guess we'll start out with my experience since it's the minimal amount.
Sure.
And it is very interesting. I mean, I've barely scratched the surface. Outside of this video, we were talking a lot about it, and this game unfolds into something insane. And I love the approach that this developer has taken with 12 minutes every session and just how it unfolds. But that's kind of how I'll start off. But Corey, since you're the furthest in, I guess, well, I'll lead this off to you now.
Yeah, this was a game that, at E3 we saw that was going to be released on Xbox Game Pass. So I was pretty excited about this because it had this art style, this top-down viewpoint where, it didn't really give us a whole lot about what the game was about, which makes sense because as I've started to play through it and have finished it now, it kind of leaves you scratching your head more often than not. I mean, the basic premise of this game is that your main character, your protagonist, is coming home from what we can only assume is work.
Yeah.
Enters his apartment, is greeted by his wife, and a series of events start to unfold over this 12-minute kind of time span. And once that time's up, regardless of where you're at in this particular loop, the time will just reset and you'll walk through that apartment door again.
Yeah.
And it just kind of throws this kind of curveball at you not necessarily deal with in many games. We play a lot of games, and this is a very unique style game in the way they kind of present it to you. So I thought, we've got some great voice actors in this. We got Willem Dafoe, James McAvoy. There's some big time actors here that are voicing these characters, and it just kind of lends to how this whole experience feels. Drew, I know you, like you said, you're kind of getting close to the end of this one as well.
Yeah.
I think I really got invested into these characters the way they presented them to us.
Absolutely. Like you say, though, right? It's all based on this 12-minute loop. You have 12 minutes to figure out everything. So you'll go in one direction and go, okay, I have to go over here because I need to get these objectives taken care of before I bring myself over to something that could be leading into something new, right? And you stumble your way through each session. But sometimes, you make absolutely no progress in 12 minutes, and you get back to the beginning again because the cop comes in, punches you in the face, and next thing you know, you're back cursing at yourself because you then start all over, right? But it's this continuous loop of, man, I have 12 minutes. I have to figure out a 12-minute game. This game is based off of 12 minutes. I'm almost 4 hours in. This is ridiculous. and the whole thing takes place in literally 3 rooms, right? Your main living space, the bedroom, the kitchen, and, part of the closet. So, that is it. This is the entire game. And it's just, it's mind-blowing. But yet you get invested into the story. And I thought the story was fantastic. That's why, I know exactly what's going on. We're not going to spoil it yet. We will be getting on some close treading waters near the end of this little segment, but it is dude, you're this close, and you go, oh man, I know what's going on here. You start connecting the dots, but you need more dialogue trees to kind of open up. In order to do those, you have to kind of go over here and get this to happen first. Then you knock out the cop, right? And then it leads into this, and then that sets that part up, and then you start talking to your wife, and then this sets up, and you're like, whoa, really? Is that where we're going now? And then next thing you know, your 12 minutes is up and you're like, oh my God, you're starting all over again, right? But because then you've accomplished those, you now have that repertoire kind of in your back pocket. So you don't necessarily need to start all over again every time you're invested in these 12 minutes. You're like, okay, cool. I was able to go and discover this part now that I already, your character himself keeps all that information for him, but everybody else gets lost in that loop, so they don't have a clue.
Groundhog Day.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, dude, I got hooked. This game is awesome. The controls aren't exactly perfect. I wish we could really just move our person around, our character. It's a point and click adventure from a top down perspective, and it's just kind of irritating. They're like, man, just let me like analog stick move, like start walking. No, but you have to click, right? So it takes that extra bit of time out of the way, but it's kind of like But yeah, as you can tell, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. But it does have a couple of little issues here or there, but nothing major. It was really the story and how that unfolds. But Scott, where are you at now?
The control issue is exactly something I felt.
Yeah.
I've long been complaining about menu systems that give you a cursor to navigate, and this is a game that is entirely that. So that was my first kind of flag of the issue, but I got past it pretty soon because I've never really played point-and-click adventure games like this. So it had my curiosity more than anything. I had to get through, and it has this strange style about it that's not terribly serious, but some of the subject matter that they get into is quite serious.
Yes.
But I think my favorite aspect of it is just sometimes you're stumbling around, sometimes you actually are working with information, but combining different items to make something new, or how does something interact with another object. For example, how many of us tried to flush everything we had down the toilet?
I mean, I tried it once.
Man, I never even thought of that. I didn't think of that. I tried drugging everybody possible, though.
Well, that's the funny thing about this one is that, you know, we've all played this game to different levels and we've all experienced it in a different way, and it's pretty much guaranteed that we may all have different endings as well. Like, this game has quite a few different endings, and they've thought about all of it. Like you said, Drew, you didn't even think about flushing stuff down the toilet. They've thought about stuff that we haven't even thought about. So I mean, the amount of detail that's been put into this game, yes, there isn't a whole lot of subject matter here as far as, you know, all the items you can collect and the rooms and areas we can travel around, but all the details that are there, everything you can interact with, everything you can look at, there's something to say about it. I mean, they've done a really good job here, and I think that's really what gets you invested. And then this story does start to unfold, and I mean, it got to a point for me where I was going through some of these time loops trying to complete certain tasks, or, you know, trial and erroring different tasks, and I was doing things that honestly I was a little surprised I was allowed to do in a video game, because some of it was fairly questionable type behavior, like hiding in the closet for the entire loop, and letting it play out because there's certain things information you need to gain that way. And I mean, it's it's like, I don't know, like it's just one of those things where it is somewhat unsettling to a point, because you're like, oh wow, this is actually pretty serious. Like Scott said, there's some of the subject matter is a little jokey, there's some comic humor there as well, but at points it does get to very serious, and you kind of have to start to kind of lock in and buckle down a little bit, that, you know, you feel almost more invested in the story than you probably should be, because these things are unfolding right in front of your eyes. I mean, it's just such a unique experience with a game like this.
I really loved that the game would respond to the things that you're doing in a proper manner. Like, it would go serious if you, for example, the first thing I did when I found the knife was knife plus wife. And your character kind of verbally contemplates that out loud. He goes, you know, are you sure, buddy? It had that sense of humor that I really appreciated. When you're having the conversation with her and she says, you know, prove it, basically. What do you have? What's your evidence? And you just go, this spoon, I don't know. And then he has a proper auditory response for that too. He's like, I don't know.
You do get into that point and click adventure kind of puzzle mechanic where you do get stumped, right? I think that's the biggest thing. But it is, I guess the good part about it is it's 12 minutes. So you have 12 minutes to figure it out and then start all over again. And then maybe next round of 12 minutes will probably trigger something else and bring up another option of dialogue, right? It's all about getting to the right cues to unload and unlock other cues to get you to keep going and going further. Guys, I think we've talked long enough, and we haven't spoiled it either. I think that was a good part for us right now. If you haven't checked out 12 minutes, You have to go check this out. For me, this is definitely one of the coolest experiences in 12 minutes I've ever played. Corey, how about you?
Yeah, you know what? This game I think is going to be a highlight for a lot of people this year just because of how unique it is. They've delivered it so well. We got a large cast of characters here as far as, you know, the level of stardom we have for these voiceovers. It was done so well. I love this playthrough, and you know what? It gives you the options to play back through to get some of these alternate endings. So, I mean, there is that as well.
Sure.
But I just thought it was a really well put together game.
Nice. Scott, how about you?
Oh, no, I love the creativity behind this and the way that it gives you options, but you're left to kind of connect the dots. I think that's really, really satisfying and not something that I've played many times before this. This is pretty untreaded waters.
Absolutely.
So I'm very satisfied with that. And I'd say if you're curious at all in any capacity, do yourself a favor and check it out.
Nate, are you going to continue your story?
Well, the sense of mystery in this game has definitely got me intrigued, and I actually appreciate that we didn't go into spoilers. I was prepared for it, but you know what? I definitely am going to keep playing this game. It sounds awesome, and from my little bit of experience, it's just got me hooked.
Awesome. Let us know. Are you playing 12 minutes? InsideTheGame.ca. Scott and I cover the news each and every day over on ITG Daily, the show that brings all the hottest topics from the industry. Sometimes, one of those topics just make you scratch your head and ask why. I'm talking about what Sony's up to next. Horizon Forbidden West is coming out on February 18th, 2022. But if you buy it on PS4 and look to later upgrade it on PS5, it's going to cost you all over again. What I mean by that is that there's no free upgrade system, and that's where I'm kind of puzzled. Why not? This is a first-party title, in-house studio, owned by PlayStation. They are a massive company, and it makes me scratch my head with the concern of the lack of ability to upgrade for free. Are we entitled to it? No, we're not. Clearly, because Sony wants you to make us buy it again. The concerning is when you go to the other side and talk about Xbox, the smart delivery system makes everything just easy to upgrade, whether that's transferring your save files or upgrading to a better gen of the game. If you buy Halo Infinite on your Xbox One and later upgrade it to the Xbox Series X, that's done via smart delivery and for free, and with a better enhanced version on the latest gen console. Moving into what PlayStation's working on with Horizon Forbidden West, they stated that Horizon Forbidden West would be coming for an upgraded free. Upgrade for free. They stated that it would be there as a launch title. Now, obviously moving into next year makes it no longer a launch title. We knew that the game was probably going to be delayed. There's a lot of polish and development that goes in behind these games. Delaying the game is probably the best move. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. What bothers me is that it's going to cost a lot of people if you're not paying attention to the fact that if you get it on PS4 because you can't find a PS5 or you don't have the funds right now for a PS5 but want to upgrade later, you have to outright buy the game all over again. Not a small fee to upgrade like a $10 with Ghost of Tsushima. If you have Ghost of Tsushima on PS4 and then buy it for PS5, there's a $10 charge. It's not exactly ideal. It's not that smart delivery we were just talking about with Xbox, but it is the ability to upgrade. Better version, runs smoother, looks better, more features, this, that, and the other. Which is great, but moving into Horizon Forbidden West, why? Why are we not getting this for free? In-house, first-party studio, coming from Guerrilla Games, they have the technology and the ability. The biggest thing when you're moving into consoles is accessibility. And this doesn't bring that accessibility here, it puts up another barrier, and it's a little concerning. Hopefully they'll sort this out. They definitely have a lot of time between now and February to see if they're going to change their minds, but I definitely have some red flags. Should we just let this go? Probably not. If you want to stand by the consumers, you do so by giving them the ability to upgrade for nothing. This is just my thought. Let us know at InsideTheGame.ca. What is your thoughts when it comes to Horizon Forbidden West with a no upgrade for free? Buy the game all over again? Or are you just going to pass? Or just play it once on PS4? Or are you just going to buy it on PS5? Like me? Let me know.
Alright, so coming from Bethesda, we got some sad but also exciting news in regards to Jeff Gardner, a veteran of Bethesda, leaving the company. And it was in no way a bad thing. I think this was him just moving on with his career. And by 15 years, I mean 15 long years. He worked on the DLC for Oblivion, I mean the infamous horse armor, yeah, all the way back then. And he's worked on every modern Fallout game, he's worked on Skyrim. I mean, this guy is a legend. He has been here since the beginning of my first experiences with Bethesda game. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, what does this mean for Fallout 76? He was the project lead for this game. And well, I'm not overly worried. We do not have a replacement as of yet, but I do know that this game and the rest of the Bethesda games will definitely be held in great hands. Also, a lot of you might be wondering, what does this mean for Jeff Gardner? What will he be working on next? Well, as of right now, we have no idea. All he said on Twitter was stay tuned. So I'm sure once we know the replacement that's going to be taking his role over at Bethesda, we will find out what he will be working on, and I am very excited to find out.
Some really interesting news coming out of China this week. There's a certain set of restrictions that are currently in place right now in China for anybody under the age of 18 for online gaming. They limit the amount of time you can actually be online playing games. And the idea for this is they kind of put these restrictions in place to try to combat what they consider a social issue in China, and that's gaming addiction. They're saying, kids are throwing their lives away just playing video games nonstop. They're not learning, maybe not going to school, not getting jobs, not doing things that, a lot of kids do, even just going outside and playing. And I mean, as generations go on and we kind of advance, even from when I was a kid, we've changed a lot. I mean, kids have screens in front of them all the time now. So I can understand why maybe in China where, you have millions and millions of people, this could become a problem because, the gaming community in China is huge. I mean, Tencent is one of the biggest game developers out there. They make League of Legends, they're part of Call of Duty Online, which are two of the biggest games in China. And right now, the president of China has said that because of this gaming addiction, they're actually going to be tightening up these restrictions in October to 1 hour of gaming on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday between the hours of 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that's it. And then 1 hour as well during that same time window on holidays. Which honestly, I mean, those restrictions seem kind of intense, especially for us here in North America where we don't have anything like that. But I mean, if they consider gaming addiction a problem and they think this is the best solution to combat that, to, get kids off the computers, off the screens, go outside, do something else, right, instead of playing video games, I can respect that. But it's just, it seems so intense for us to look at it and view it that way. And honestly, they've got it figured out because it's not going to be the parents of the children that are going to be getting in trouble here. It's going to be the companies that provide those online services. So what these companies are going to have to do, and Tencent being one of them, is actually have sort of name and age verification, in their built into the games or built into the online services, so that they can figure out how old this user is, and if they can provide the service or not, because these companies are going to possibly be hit with fines and other issues like that if they are caught giving out these online services to kids under the age of 18 with outside of those time windows. So it's very interesting because it only talks about online gaming. So offline gaming, I imagine you're free to play as much as you want still, which I mean, there isn't a ton of offline games out there, as far as there's no real multiplayer, couch co-op. There are some out there, but some of the most popular games are almost always just online. So it'll be very interesting to see because, I mean, there's already server issues with server overloads and things like that in certain games. So you're going to get an entire country to be playing video games at the same time. And they're going to be on playing because they're not allowed to play any other time. So those 3 nights for that 1 hour, I could only imagine how terrible the connections may be. But you know what? If that's what China wants to do, that's what China wants to do. But I thought this is something we had to talk about because it's just such an interesting topic. And it's one I'm wondering, if it's something we should start to focus on more here in North America as well. But at the same time, I love my video games, and you know what? I don't want anybody to take them away from me either. So I can understand what these Chinese kids are going through. They're probably super ticked off, but you know what? That's the rules that are put in place. But I just wanted to highlight them and kind of show, you know, that the rules are different across the world, and it's very interesting to see how different countries kind of combat what they consider gaming addiction.
Well, it looks like Xbox has formed another partnership, but this time it's not a game studio. It's somewhere where I was born and raised, and I'm talking about Xbox UK announcing their partnership with the Football Association, or the FA, which means that Xbox will become the official gaming partner of England's national team across the Lioness, the E-Lions, as well as the Three Lions, as well as Wembley Stadium, connected by EE and St George's Park. Xbox released a statement stating, "We strive to remove barriers and empower people to experience the joy of play with millions of people around the world, finding common ground and connecting through playing games, as they do with football." This multi-year partnership is a celebration of driving principle of inclusivity of play shared by both Xbox and FA. The FA has continued commitment to ensuring that all football participants in England have a great experience regardless of gender, sexuality, ethnicity, ability, faith or age, just as we have long championed the importance of gaming being inclusive, accessible and safe for all. This shared vision to welcome all players is expressed in our newly announced partnership message. When everybody plays, we all win. Now this is really exciting news and definitely a positive step in the right direction. But obviously there's not too much details out at the moment, but we'll definitely keep you informed as we hear more things.
Scott, this week we're kicking it old school. We're checking out Zuul Redimension. This week, we're throwing it back to 1992, and we're checking out Zuul Redimension. I mean, Zuul originally came out in 1992, but we're checking out the new version, Redimension. This one's an action platformer that plays as, you know, as retro as all those old platformers do. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I played a retro platformer that was a lot like Mario, so this kind of gave me those same kinds of feels. But honestly, I had a great time jumping into this one, kind of just right off the bat. I like these retro games, or these kind of reimagined retro games, because, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, platforming games were tough. Like, they were hard, they were unforgiving, they were relentless, and they've managed to do a good job at bringing these games kind of into the modern era, right? Because we need to change stuff. We can't just keep it old school all the way, but let's keep, you know, as much nostalgia in there as we can, but kind of give us a better experience overall. We were playing this game on Steam. What did you think kind of jumping into Zuul Redimensioned?
Well, I totally agree with you. There's something of the platformers of old that just hasn't quite been recaptured.
Yeah.
Mario has considerably gone, you know, all the way to today, but it will always be around, but it's still not the same feeling as it was back before.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly an expert on older platformers. The latest one I played was Celeste. That is not an old platformer by any means. But before that, I'm thinking Sonic. But I get into this game, and it is certainly not Sonic. It is kind of modeled after those of old. In fact, it is one of old, but it just doesn't quite have the speed behind it that you would be expecting if you were a fan of Sega in that same time frame. But that being said, I got into it with an open mind, and it did not disappoint. I'll get into that further, but the aesthetic of it was interesting.
I really enjoyed the retro look. They did a good job of kind of bringing those graphics into 2021. I mean, these games weren't overly, you know, intricate or very detailed, you know, to begin with. This game's kind of got the retro mode that we can jump back into, which is really, really cool to be able to kind of experience the game and what it was like back in 1992. But to be able to play it, you know, in the redimensioned graphics and just kind of the newer gameplay style, I did really enjoy my playthrough. I mean, we've got 28 different levels to go through here with a bunch of different bosses. I mean, this game was tough. I didn't, you know, you could speed run it, you know, if you played this game before, if you go through and you beat it, you can kind of go back and speed run it if you'd like. But it is one of those games where multiple playthroughs will kind of give you a different results, because there are secret areas in each world that you may have passed over when your first playthrough. So there's a lot of kind of cool little details here that you don't necessarily see right at face value, but the more you do play this game, you do realize there's a lot of things to collect here. There's a lot of parts of these maps to check out. And one of the big things I dislike in retro platformers is when you start scrolling across the screen, normally that screen doesn't allow you to go backwards at all. But in Zuul, you can, and I like that, because every once in a while you miss something you wanted to get, and you can go back and get it. And a lot of those other games are a lot more unforgiving in that sense, where if you passed it, it's gone, and like you got to go start that level over again if you want to try to get it. So I did really like that. I thought they did a good job here. The controls overall were fairly basic. I played on controller on PC. I thought, you know, the controls were laid out really nicely. Did you play on keyboard and mouse?
I played, it was just keyboard, but it was kind of a little strange to me. It had the WASD, but you could also alternatively use the arrow keys.
Okay.
And then to jump was spacebar. That's pretty straightforward. But then there's the crouch, which is shift or down. Mm-hmm. And then you can shoot your little weapon. And that was control or shift on the other hand, so it's working for a left hand or a right hand option, and that was just a little bit confusing to me because they were both available, and in the panic moment I kind of hit it. And there was those panic moments, because as you go through this game, it's not terribly challenging if you're, you know, normally a gamer, but you get to these boss fights, and some of them actually did have some kind of hold up to it, where it took me a few tries to really get the hang of it or know when I could attack. But sometimes when you get down to that last little fraction of their health bar, man, you just panic out sometimes, and that was the difficulty that came with it. I feel like the controls were part of that.
Yeah, you know what? I did really enjoy the boss fights the most out of everything. Like, some of the levels I found to be short. Like, you could run through a couple of these levels pretty quickly to get to the end checkpoint and then move on to the next level. I found the boss levels actually slowed me down from advancing into the next world every time, because they did ramp the difficulty up quite a bit on the boss battles, but they did a good job, because each boss had its kind of own unique set of moves that you had to learn. And, you know, as they went on, as you got through this into the later worlds, these bosses got pretty tough. I mean, the overall levels became more difficult as you got farther into the game as well, but the boss battles were unforgiving. I mean, there was some frustration on my part, I'm not gonna lie. I put it down for a little bit and then kind of jump back in, but there isn't a ton of playtime here, especially if you do kind of have an affinity for these, you know, action style platformers, where you can run through these levels pretty fast if you want to, especially if you know how to kind of maneuver around them. You can get through them fairly quickly. So I could see speedrunning being a big thing for this game, but overall, I mean, I don't have many complaints. I just had a really good time. This game doesn't promise to be anything it's not. You know, I was in it for about 3.5 hours total, and I mean, you can go back and play through. There's kind of a Super Ninja mode that takes out your double jump and returns you to kind of the retro controls, and that really ramps up the difficulty. Damage is higher. I mean, it's a lot harder. I mean, if you're looking for that challenge, it's there, but the original game playthrough I thought was done really well. Alright, Scott, we've run through these worlds like crazy, you know, being the ninja that Zuul is. I think we had a pretty good time. If you've got to score this 1 out of 10, what are you going to give it?
I really appreciate this game taking something older and kind of brushing it off, putting it back into the new age. I think this one actually hit well. As a platformer, I'm not so familiar with, but it was friendly enough for a first timer that I got really in, and I can see that the ceiling is quite high for it as well. I like the aesthetic behind it. Maybe that's because it's from the 90s, I'm not sure, but in any case, I did like this one. I'm there with a 7.5.
You know what? I had a great time with this game too. I think the overall graphic style, bringing that into the 2021, we got the music. I just, you know, it makes you feel like a kid again, like we're playing on the old consoles. So just for that alone, I got to give this one some points. But overall, I just had a ton of fun. I think it's, like you said, good for beginners all the way up to advanced. Everybody should check this one out if you got some free time. I got to give this one a 7.5 as well.
Zuul Redimensioned is a great revisit of older style platformer games. It's short in length overall, but lots of speed running potential with this one.
The guys and I were live over on twitch.tv/theofficialitg. We're there. We were checking out Splitgate. How'd we do? We'll check it out.
Do the strut, strut, strut.
You're on your own.
I got the sniper.
Nice.
With
Ah, there's another guy down there to the left.
Got one. Oh no, the guy crouched. Oh, he like pretty well ducked it.
I got a baseball bat. Let's go.
Oh yeah, here we go. Here we go.
Batters up.
Personal escort. Personal escort.
Oof.
They're on the other side, big time though.
Oh, okay. Well, he's right here. He's right here. Ah!
Oh, you got him.
Did I? Revenge.
Oh. Guy just came down the stairs so fast, it startled me.
Oh, he's wounded down there, Nate. Nice.
He did.
Assisted kill. Thank you. Let's go, Scott.
Oh,
to the
portal.
left.
Here, come on.
Get out of here.
I stole. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I thought I stole that kill.
Got another one. Another one.
Double kill.
You got your portal, thanks? Nope. Get your portal
Those
out of
guys
here.
doing the crouch. We got a crab walker over here.
I got one,
on,
dude. Did you get hit from behind too? What?
Man.
Oh yeah.
I'm
he-
telling you.
Yeah, he did.
Cheeky portal, cheeky portal.
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you don't see them shoot them past you, and then you're kind of screwed.
Yep.
Oh,
That guy, portal kill. Let's go.
Cheap.
This guy's here for sure.
the portal kill is so brutal sometimes, but I just the thought that overwhelms me is sucks to suck.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, barely got that off. Ooh.
Whoa! I fell. What the heck? What was that?
Yeah, you gotta jump through that one.
Boom, baby.
No,
Dude,
one shot.
flying by me. Real good.
Yeah, that was the guy I just got. That was funny.
That was a good shot. I saw it. Nope. No. Where are
you
you?
have a sniper.
Hiding.
I was wondering why these guys are dropping hard.
Oh, come on. Like,
Almost shot through.
One to the right, Scott.
yeah.
He's hurting with one
I'm
shot.
down to
Got
AR
him.
now.
Oh, I got nailed from behind. Yes,
Oh,
I
the
did. Yes, I
melee.
did.
Oh, I got ripped from the side.
Oh, come on.
King Slayer.
Woo-hoo-hoo. I can hear him. He's right above me.
Oh, it's so frantic when a 3-shot fight becomes an 8-shot fight. was about to jump through that portal.
Oh man. Ugh.
There's a guy chasing me, I think.
Is there?
He was jumping around me or somewhere.
Went through the other side. I didn't see him.
Oh, you did?
I don't see him at all.
Let's go.
Nice. I don't see anybody.
Chase me?
Man, darn.
Oh, get him, Corey. Get him, Corey. Get him, Corey.
Oh, I missed him with the sniper 3 times.
Got him.
Thank you. I was trying to just hip fire him with that snipe. Oh, the guy with the back got me from behind.
Me too, dude. I did not see him. He would have killed him.
I
I
see
got
him.
the other guy.
Yeah.
You have been avenged.
Thank
Now
you.
I have the bat. I am the one who knows.
Uh-oh, what'd I do? Oh, I got lucky.
Come on. Ah, that's ridiculous. I had that. Ah, man.
Oh, he got me. Oh. I don't have the same lunge they do. What's up with that? What's that coming?
Game
Nice.
over. Victory.
Good job, boys.
That was a good one.
And achievement.
Nice.
Competitor. Complete 25 matches.
I was just about to rip real hard and say, was that your first win?
No, it's not my first win. I'll take my 21 kills.
That's better than I got. I got 16.
Nice. 17.
That'll wrap up today's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. And of course, you can always be a part of the show by going to insidethegame.ca or hitting us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. This week, we have Triforce Master with the world of Red Dead once again. If you have played Red Dead Online, well, you know how much you can stumble on your horse, but this is a little ridiculous. Until next week, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you inside the game.
Come along. That was Montez. He was just seen on the road in the country with some of his boys. We can get him. This is it, Montez. Justice will be. On the trail still high. Justice will be mine. Let's ride!